The story begins in a beautiful and prosperous kingdom. The queen of this land gives birth to a daughter, a girl so pure and lovely that she names her Snow White. As Snow White grows, everyone sees that she is not only beautiful, but also kind-hearted, with an innocence that shines brighter than anything else. But happiness does not last forever. A few years later, the queen dies, leaving the king heartbroken and filled with grief. He becomes weak and vulnerable. And in this moment of sorrow, a mysterious dark army suddenly attacks his kingdom. The king leads his men into battle and defeats this army. Among the captives, they find a woman of extraordinary beauty. Her name is Ravenna. The king is mesmerized by her charm, and without hesitation he marries her the very next day. But this marriage is nothing more than a trap. On the wedding night, Ravenna shows her true colors. She kills the king, and as he takes his last breath, her brother Finn storms the castle with her army. Chaos erupts. The king's loyal chief, Duke Hammond, manages to escape with his young son William and a handful of soldiers. But for the rest, there is no mercy. Ravenna's soldiers slaughter them all, and the little Princess Snow White is thrown into a tower prison. It is then revealed that the dark army who attacked the kingdom belonged to Ravenna all along. She had lured the king into marriage only to seize his throne. Ravenna is not an ordinary woman. She is a sorceress who rules through dark magic. Her greatest possession is a magical mirror. Every day she asks it the same question. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And the mirror always answers the same. Ravenna is the most beautiful of them all. But Ravenna's beauty is unnatural. To stay young, she drains the life force from the bodies of beautiful young girls, leaving them aged and frail, while she remains forever youthful. Under her cruel reign, the once thriving kingdom withers away. Its fields turn barren, its people starve, and hope fades into darkness. Years pass, and Snow White grows into a young woman of 18. On this day, Ravenna once again stands before her mirror and asks her question. But this time, the mirror does not give her the answer she expects. It tells her, "You are no longer the fairest. Snow White is now the fairest of them all. And her heart is pure. If you take her heart and keep it, you will live forever. You will never again need to consume another soul to remain beautiful." The revelation fills Ravenna with rage and fear. She immediately orders her brother Finn to fetch Snow White. Meanwhile, in her tower cell, Snow White notices two birds fluttering near her. These birds appear almost like messengers, and they lead her attention to a loose metal nail hidden in the stone wall. She doesn't yet know who sent them, but they seem to be guiding her. Snow White takes the nail and hides it. When Finn comes to take her away, Snow White strikes him with the nail and seizes her chance to escape. She runs through the castle as Ravenna's guards chase after her. Just when it seems she will be caught, the same birds appear again, showing her the way forward. Trusting their guidance, Snow White slips through the defenses and finally flees the castle. Guided by the mysterious birds, Snow White reaches a horse waiting for her. Without wasting a moment, she mounts it and rides away as Ravenna's soldiers charge after her. But her escape is short-lived. The horse gets trapped in a swamp, forcing her to abandon it. With no other choice, she runs straight into the dreaded dark forest. The dark forest is not like any other place. It is alive with shadows and sorcery, feeding on the fears of anyone who dares to enter. The trees twist and writhe, the air turns heavy with poison, and hallucinations prey on the mind. Snow White stumbles deeper into the darkness until her fear overwhelms her, and she collapses to the ground unconscious. When Ravenna learns that Snow White has vanished into the dark forest, her expression hardens. She admits to her brother Finn, "My powers do not work there. We need someone who knows the forest well and can bring her back alive." The one man who fits that description is a grieving drunkard known as the Huntsman. The Huntsman once had a wife, but her death broke him. To drown his sorrow, he turned to drinking and reckless fights, no longer caring if he lived or died. When Finn finds him, Ravenna makes him an offer. "Bring me the girl, and I will reward you with gold." But the Huntsman scoffs. Gold means nothing to him, and death no longer frightens him. He refuses. Then Ravenna makes a far more tempting promise. She whispers that she has the power to bring his wife back from the dead, if only he delivers the girl. Blinded by hope, the huntsman agrees, unaware that the girl he is meant to capture is none other than Snow White herself, the princess everyone believed Ravenna had killed long ago. The huntsman enters the dark forest with Finn and a band of soldiers. It doesn't take long before they track Snow White down. But when the huntsman demands that Ravenna honor her deal and return his wife first, Finn laughs cruelly. "You fool," he sneers. "My sister may wield dark power, but not even she can bring back the dead." The huntsman realizes he has been deceived. Enraged, he turns on Finn's men, cutting them down one by one in a furious battle. Finn manages to escape, wounded but alive. With the soldiers gone, the huntsman prepares to leave Snow White behind, but she desperately calls out to him. "If you take me to 𝗬𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗲's castle, I will give you 100 gold coins." The huntsman hesitates. He doesn't care about kingdoms or wars, but he does crave the money to fuel his drinking. Reluctantly, he agrees. For the first time, Snow White has an ally, though she does not yet trust him. Meanwhile, far away, 𝗬𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗃 receives word that the princess still lives. Overjoyed, he tells his son William that Snow White has escaped Ravenna's clutches and is now somewhere in the forest. Without hesitation, William sets off on his own to find and protect her. On the other side, Finn gathers new soldiers for another hunt. Among them, in disguise, is William himself, who cleverly joins the group to get closer to Snow White. Back in the dark forest, Snow White and the huntsman struggle onward. They think they are safe, until the ground trembles. A monstrous troll bursts through the trees, roaring with fury. It attacks the huntsman, pinning him to the ground. Snow White, terrified yet brave, steps forward. The beast looms over her, but instead of striking, it pauses. Something in her, the purity of her blood, the aura of royalty, stays its hand. With a low growl, the troll spares her life and retreats into the shadows. Snow White and the huntsman continue their perilous journey, making their way toward 𝗬𝗲𝗃𝗀𝗃's castle, unaware of the dangers still pursuing them. On their journey, Snow White and the huntsman arrive at a small riverside village. The place is eerily quiet. It is home only to women. These women have scarred their own faces, destroying their beauty so Ravenna would not target them or their daughters to drain their youth. Despite their suffering, they are kind-hearted. They recognize Snow White and welcome her and the huntsman, offering them shelter. It is here that the huntsman finally realizes the truth. The girl he has been protecting all this time is not just any fugitive. She is Princess Snow White, the rightful heir to the throne. But peace does not last long. That night, Finn and his soldiers storm the village, determined to capture Snow White. A brutal battle erupts. The huntsman fights fiercely, protecting Snow White at every step. In the chaos, he manages to save her once again, and together they flee into the night. Exhausted, they stop to rest, only to be ambushed by a band of dwarf outlaws. At first, the dwarves are suspicious, but Snow White reveals her true identity.
"My father was King Magnus."
Among them is an old, wise dwarf who studies her carefully. Finally, he nods. "She speaks the truth," he says. "If Snow White becomes queen, the kingdom will flourish again, and life will return to the land." Hearing this, the dwarves agree to help her. The dwarves lead Snow White and the huntsman to the sanctuary, a hidden forest untouched by Ravenna's dark magic. The air here is alive with wonder, the ground vibrant with greenery, and fairies flit through the trees. That night, the dwarves rest with a sense of hope after Snow White's arrival. When morning comes, Snow White notices the little birds that have been following her, almost as if the forest itself has been guiding her toward safety. Far away, in her castle, Ravenna feels her strength waning. Her face grows older, her body weaker. She continues to drain the life force from young girls, but she knows this will not sustain her forever. Only Snow White's heart can grant her eternal youth and power. In the sanctuary, Snow White awakens to a breathtaking sight. A magnificent white stag with 12 antlers approaches her. The The stag bows its head before her, as if recognizing her purity and rightful place as queen. The dwarves fall silent in awe, and in that moment, they pledge themselves to Snow White's cause, but their peace is shattered once again. Finn and his soldiers attack the sanctuary, swords clashing and fire raging through the forest. The dwarves and William, who has secretly been traveling with Finn's men, fight side by side against the soldiers. Meanwhile, the Huntsman faces Finn in a final duel. Fueled by anger and revenge, the Huntsman strikes Finn down, ending his life at last. With Finn's death, Ravenna's power weakens further, and her grip on the kingdom loosens. Snow White, the Huntsman, William, and the dwarves press onward, determined to reach 𝗬𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗲's castle. Along the way, they camp for the night. The next morning, William approaches Snow White with a smile and offers her an apple. Trusting him and remembering her childhood fondness for him, she takes a bite. But the apple is poisoned. Snow White collapses, her body paralyzed by dark magic. The truth is horrifying. This William is no William at all, but Ravenna herself in disguise. The sorceress bends over Snow White, preparing to carve out her heart. Just in time, the real William and the Huntsman arrive, striking Ravenna and wounding her. Furious, she transforms into a swarm of ravens and escapes, leaving Snow White's lifeless body behind. Crying, the Huntsman begs the dwarves to save Snow White. The dwarves are known for their healing wisdom, but even they cannot cure the dark spell of black magic. Snow White's breathing slows, and finally stops. Her lifeless body is carried with sorrowful reverence to 𝗬𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗲's castle. The Huntsman, devastated, falls back into drinking. Later, he stands quietly beside her body, unable to hold back his grief. His voice trembles as he says, "Looking at you reminded me of my wife, because like her, you had a kind and pure heart." Overcome by emotion, he leans down and kisses her, and then, miraculously, his pure love breaks Ravenna's spell. Snow White awakens, drawing a deep breath as life floods back into her. Everyone around her is stunned. Snow White rises with newfound strength. "While my eyes were closed," she declares, "I saw Ravenna. Now I know how to defeat her. We must attack her castle." Inspired by her courage, 𝗬𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗲's army pledges to follow her into battle. Meanwhile, inside her fortress, Ravenna regains her youth and strength by draining more innocent lives, preparing herself for the final confrontation. Snow White leads her army across the battlefield to Ravenna's castle. The dwarves slip inside through the same hidden passage Snow White once used to escape, fighting their way past guards until they reach the gate. With bravery and sacrifice, they open it, allowing Snow White's soldiers to storm inside. The clash is brutal. Many lives are lost. But the path to Ravenna is finally clear. Snow White pushes forward, determined, and confronts Ravenna in the chamber of the magic mirror. The Huntsman and William arrive to aid her, but Ravenna's dark sorcery is overwhelming. Shards of black magic whirl around the room, and she knocks Snow White to the ground. The Queen of Darkness seems unstoppable, but as Snow White sees her friends, the Huntsman and William, nearly fall, something awakens within her. Summoning her courage, she seizes a dagger and drives it straight into Ravenna's heart. The sorceress screams, her beauty fading instantly. Her body ages in seconds, withering away until she crumbles into dust. At that moment, the kingdom begins to heal. Flowers bloom again. The forests return to life, and the girls whose youth Ravenna had stolen are restored. The land breathes freely, once more. Snow White is crowned queen, her pure heart shining over her people. The kingdom is finally safe, reborn under her rule. And that was the tale of Snow White and the Huntsman. A story of courage, sacrifice, and a pure heart that defeated even the darkest of sorcery. On IMDb, this movie was rated by 312,000 people and has an average rating of 6.1. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more movie stories. Thanks for watching.